So I want to talk about the ongoing situation on the front lines, because for what I can see in multiple Telegram channels, and not so much the publications of the channels, but sometimes the chat of those channels. For example, one of the channels I follow that I sometimes fail to mention here, because I do not follow one channel. I consult many YouTube and Telegram channels. I like the updates on the written form. Sometimes I don't have time to be watching the video. And one of the channels I follow, it's Slaviangrad. I don't know if you've heard of it or if you know it, but still, I can. That is DD Geopolitics. You have Sputnik. This is all on the Russian perspective, right? But Slaviangrad is a great source of information. We'll almost run over a cat. Luckily, he realized he didn't get confused by the lights of the car, and he turned back. And so I know that, for example, Russell had its disagreements with this channel, and for me, Russell's perspective is one to respect. But nevertheless, putting all that aside, because I really don't like the when people who are, let's say, on the same page of things, they start to create divisions among them because they disagree on this, on that point. But Slaviangrad is a great channel, and one of the reasons I started to follow Slaviangrad was because I could see that although it's a Russian perspective channel, it can be accurately critical of its own side, and I really appreciate, because I mean, if you just follow channels where they put the head in the sand and they ignore all the bad news, they just want to feel good about themselves and want to get only, even if they live in fantasy, just feed me what I want to hear. It's like this. So I look at the chat in Slaviangrad, and I'm giving Slaviangrad as an example because the chat is huge. There's a lot of thousands of participants. The channel now, it's over 100k followers. But they are a team. I really, sometimes I invade these channels. I wish I could have a channel that could produce as much, but I am alone, and I haven't managed to put a team together. And I don't know if I ever will manage to do that, but I would like. That's something I would like to do. Maybe not now, because I work shifts. That's my main problem. I'm a worker, and I do it on my free time. But now, anyway, all this aside, sorry for the rambling. To the front lines. The Russians, you can read this in two forms, as I've read in multiple channels. The Russians haven't managed yet to control the Ukrainian incursion, and the fog of war is still very big, and the situation is very confusing, and it's very difficult for the Russians. And then you see other perspective, which is the Russians are really don't seem to be that much bothered with the Ukrainian incursion in Kursk, because they keep doing their offensives all along the front line. They keep pushing and breaking the Ukrainian army in other parts of the front line, being Pokrovsk, Toretsk, New York, the main sector. And one thing is that if I can analyze this, remember everyone speculates of what are the real intentions of the Ukrainians in doing that. So first of all, they did manage to take an opportunity that was presented to them, or at least apparently an opportunity presented to them. So they exploited an undefended gap. If the Russians were really caught by surprise, which they were not, and there are plenty of proof of that, because they were monitoring, I mean, since day one, they were monitoring every movement. They knew the Ukrainians were putting troops there. So there are two versions then. First, the Russians knew about all this, which they knew, but out of two choices, they did not put troops there because, one, they thought the Ukrainians were only putting troops there to increase their defense in a possible Russian incursion through that area, which the Ukrainians did claim in the recent past. They were claiming that the Russians were about to open a new front in Sumy. This is true. Or the Russians simply ignore, despite the risk, because they know of all the strategic objectives that the Ukrainians can reach there. The main one was the nuclear power plant. Because don't come to me with Sudzha. I've been informing myself about Sudzha. Sudzha, it's contested area. There are videos of Ukrainians just walking in the center of Sudzha. You don't hear any fight, not even in the background. But Sudzha doesn't really represent a big victory. For example, if they had captured the nuclear power plant, this would be a great problem, right? This would be, because if you have a fight around the nuclear power plant, I mean, that's really a place you can bargain with. So there are some who claim that Russia it's gonna transfer troops to that sector at its own pace. But one thing it doesn't want to do, so we really don't know if it's the theory of the trap. I'm not sure. I'm not gonna say that it is or it is not. But what I can see now is that despite the Ukrainians trying to they split the force in many small groups, they try to run in multiple directions using mobility, they are suffering heavy casualties. We don't know about the manpower, but the equipment it's being destroyed at a very big pace. I mean, sometimes a whole group, sometimes the equipment is destroyed because it's abandoned. They run as fast as they can and they abandon the equipment and they infiltrate the troops, which I still think is strange. I don't know how can you adopt a strong defensive position while you do this, but I mean, what other option they have? Because the equipment is being destroyed at very big pace. So, first question, which is unanswered, is that if the Russians were really setting a trap or not, were they really caught off guard? They were not expecting the Ukrainians to feel that confident, and so they were caught off guard. But nevertheless, they know that they can respond to the menace. They are monitoring, they see the Ukrainian troop movements, so they are responding accordingly. They do not feel the need, for example, to respond decisively in order to just make the Ukrainians all at once fall back. They might want to give hopes to the Ukrainians, let them run amok in this territory which doesn't represent doesn't have much strategical value. Keep them feeding reserves to this while they pursue their set objectives from before on the rest of the front line. This is a possibility. So, summarizing, it's not that some magically the Russians are magical and they know everything, they control everything. No, it's not. They might have been caught a little bit off guard there. That is a possibility. But managing the situation, the way I see them managing the situation, they keep advancing. They did stop 2 points on the front, stop advancing. One of them was Krasnogorivka. Was it? Don't recall the name now, I'm sorry. Because they had to take, they need to fill the front line with troops, but they need to have some good troops to make quick reaction. And some good experienced troops, namely drone squads, have been detached to the Kursk region. That it is known. So, like for example, Dima from the military summary put it, it's a gambit. Let's see, okay, Ukrainians are doing their exploits around Kursk. As long as they don't capture anything of value, they're just being pummeled and suffering heavy attrition, while the Russians keep using their compressor force and keep advancing on the front line until eventually they break the key fortifications of the Ukrainians, which by now we know that the Ukrainians have diverted valuable forces from these hot spots on the front line to do the incursion in Kursk. That's why we see the Russians advancing quicker now. So let's see. I'm not putting any chips on any side, because we're all, me like many other YouTubers or Telegrammers or whatever, a lot of it is logic and speculation. But one thing we can say for sure, and because I see a lot of people falling for this mistake, I see a lot of people that are really just one-sided for the Ukrainians, so it's like they're cheerleading for their football team or something, and they think the Russians are stupid, and the Russians are everything but stupid. You can mark these words. If you are one of the Western propaganda have been depicting the Russians as incompetent, second-rate army, you know, all these negative attributes. But that is not true. And so, for the people, for example, my message for the pro-Russian people who are in panic due to the Kursk situation, don't. It will be solved in time. This is, of course, my personal conviction and opinion. The Russians are not stupid. They would not put at stake more than they needed to. That is the truth. Okay, guys, I'm on my commute to work. In a couple of months from now, what date is today? So we're almost halfway through August. Yeah, more or less a couple of months from now, I'll have some news for you, some things I'm gonna do and report back to you. But in the meantime, we'll be seeing each other through this channel, and I really hope I do see you on the next one. If you like these videos, which to be honest with you, they are the ones I do the most now, because they are the ones that require the least preparation. Nevertheless, they require that I keep looking at the news and the channels and but that's something I do out of interest. that I can do on my when I need to kill some time and I can't be doing anything else. I hope you like them. If you do, just interact with it, give a little thumbs up or a thumbs down, whatever. Leave a comment, whatever comment. I don't censorship any comments at all, unlike YouTube, which has censored already one video of mine. I don't do that. I mean, I might have a limit to it, but so far I haven't felt the need. Again, I hope I see you on the next one.